Today, we're having a look at Psalm 140. Psalm 140 is a classic sort of psalm. It's a psalm where the author is crying out to God for deliverance. It's a psalm that talks about how enemies have surrounded this person, how they are trying to live a faithful life, and yet it seems like evil is prevailing. So they cry out to God and they ask God to show up. But here's the interesting thing. The part that I want to focus on this today is at the very end of this psalm. It says this in verses 12 and 13. I know that the Lord secures justice for the poor and upholds the cause of the needy. Surely the righteous will praise your name, and the upright will live in your presence. What this is this idea that this person is saying, I am this person. I am someone who is poor, and I am someone who is needy, and I am someone who's trying to live this upright life. And I know that God, you are on the side. You secure the cause of the needy, and you fight for justice for the poor. And I am that person. Why this is interesting is because I think in our Christian circles we often forget how God is for justice and righteousness and setting wrong things to right. Not simply putting our hand up and saying, I believe in Jesus, and then we're sort of just waiting for eternity. But God is actually active in the world, wanting to right the wrongs around us. In Jeremiah chapter 22, Jeremiah is speaking a prophecy against a king who is wicked. And this is what he says in verses 13 and following. Woe to him who builds his palace by unrighteousness, his upper rooms by injustice, making his own people work for nothing, not paying them for their labor. He says, I will build myself a great palace with spacious upper rooms. So he makes large windows in it, panels it with cedar, and decorates it in red. Then he asks the question, does it make you a king to have more and more cedar? Did not your father have food and drink? He did what was right and just, so all went well with him. He defended the cause of the poor and needy, and so all went well with him. Is that not what it means to know me? Declares the Lord. Here's a passage where this king is thinking that they're doing all the right things, and they're just enjoying their life, right? They're building up their wealth, and yet they've neglected the cause of the poor and needy around them. They've ignored what's happening in the world and doing their part to work for God's kingdom and setting wrong things to right again. And Jeremiah says, is that not, or the Lord through Jeremiah says, is that not what it means to know me, to defend the cause of the poor and needy? James similarly echoes this. At the end of James chapter 1, he says, verse 27, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress and keep oneself from being polluted by the world. What these verses are all saying is that God is someone who wants his people to reach out to the world and see the wrong things that are happening and say, if God's a God who restores all things, I have a part in making it right. And so in Psalm 140, when the writer of this psalm is saying, I'm that one. I'm that one who is who's being oppressed. Injustice is happening to me, and evil is surrounding me. God, I know you're the God who's on my side. And if this is true, that God's the God who defends the cause of the poor and needy and distressed and orphan and widow, shouldn't we be as well?